Small town, big dreams, that's what football can do.
Look, I'll put it in plain fat, white, and black format. This team is not going to cover.
Okay, Carr is good, but they're not from up here, so I don't want to talk about them. Welcome! This is the first ever edition of the Norla Sports Recap Show, football style. Again, this is the first time we've ever done this. You are witnessing history. We are very excited to do this. My name is JD, and I am the social media director of Norla Sports and also the odds maker, but we can get to that later. What we do, we're a new company, and we're covering sports in North Louisiana. You may follow us on Twitter at Norla Sports. That's Norla Sports. Sports is spelled like normal. As you can guess, this is North Louisiana. Not Northeast, not North Central, not Northwest, but all of North Louisiana. We have done a few things. If you follow us on Twitter, you may be familiar. We have a segment each week called See It or Skip It, where we talk about what football games in the area you should go to and which ones you should just avoid because either they're bad or they're going to be blowouts or they don't mean anything. A lot of you, you're busy throughout the week and, you're not really sure what to go to and what to see. You're not really keeping up with North Webster or small schools like Neville. But, we help you out. We tell you what to do. See It or Skip It has been very, very popular. Again, follow us and you'll see. We also set odds for these games. Entertainment purposes only, but it's really fun. If you're going to go see a game like Northwood Shreveport, who went undefeated this year, by the way, against Bossier, that was a good Week 10 matchup. That game is not any fun at all if you don't have some lines. We set Northwood Shreveport to win by 41.5 points. That game is a blowout. But if you're at that game, say, you've got a kid who's in the band at Bossier and you got to go to the game and you don't really want to be there. You'd much rather see Evangel Captain Shreve or something like that. You can go and you can say, okay, I think Northwood's going to win by 41. Or you can say, I don't think they're going to win by 41. And then they only end up winning by 28 or so, and you can turn to your wife and say, hey, honey, I was right. And she goes, what are you talking about? I'm just trying to get home. It doesn't matter, though, because you had fun. And that's what we're really all about, is you having fun. So follow our odds. They're pretty fun. It's all for entertainment purposes. We also have been doing a game of the week. And if you follow us on Twitter, you may be confused because we abbreviate that, GOTW. And that stands for game of the week, not something else. I don't know what else it would stand for. But we pick one game from the area and we say, hey, if you're don't have an affiliation, or if your school is playing in Morgan City and you don't want to make that drive down south, you can go see the game of the week. It's going to be two teams that we think are good, a matchup that's meaningful, something that should be a close, entertaining game. We've had some good ones this year. Last week was Captain Shreve and Evangel. That was a good one. We've had Delhi and Oak Grove, a nail-biter. We had a game of the week that was an upset a couple of weeks ago when Sterlington went on the road to beat Union. That was a great one. But again, one thing we want to talk about are the parishes that we cover, because that's been a hot topic on our Twitter page. Because, what do you consider North Louisiana? There's a big cultural gap between North and South Louisiana. South Louisianans often look down upon us, and we often look down upon them, mostly because we're just looking south. But, we're all one big state, but we don't get a lot of coverage up here in the north. You have your northeast, you have your northwest, but we want to unite that. But you have to draw a line somewhere. We do cover a certain amount of parishes, so if you know what parish you live in, listen for your name here. We cover Caddo Parish, Bossier Parish, Webster Parish, Claiborne Parish, Union Parish, and Morehouse Parish. We also cover West and East Carroll parishes, as well as Madison Parish. I don't think we get a lot of follows from that one, but we do cover them. We cover Richland Parish, Ouachita Parish, Lincoln Parish, Jackson Parish, Bienville Parish, Red River Parish, DeSoto Parish, Natchitoches Parish, and Wynn Parish. In addition, we cover Caldwell Parish and Franklin Parish. And last and least, we cover Tensall Parish. But those are the parishes. We do not cover Sabine Parish or Grant Parish or LaSalle Parish or Catahoula Parish or Concordia Parish. Although those are about even with Natchitoches Parish, we have to draw the line somewhere, and that's what it is. I don't make the decisions here. I'm just in charge of social media and odds making. That comes from above. We are a growing company. We have a lot of staff. So I know some people are upset on Twitter that I'm not covering Grant High School or I'm not covering Manny High School. I'd love to cover Manny High School. They're good. They're awesome. But they're not in their coverage area. They do often play teams from our coverage area, and then we cover them. But that's just how it works. Again, those are the parishes. If you need to listen again, just rewind. Listen again. I don't want to read them off again, but that's what we cover. Sorry, Ash. Sorry, Pineville. We don't do repeats parish. Also, another thing we don't do, just to get this out of the way, this is kind of a sensitive subject, and we'll talk about it later in the show. We do not cover MAIS schools. We only do LHSAA affiliated schools. That's the Louisiana High School Athletic Association. We do not cover the Mississippi Association of Independent Schools, and we'll talk about that why later. But enough about that, enough about me, and enough about what we do. This show would be pretty boring if it was just one guy talking into a microphone, so we're going to have a guest each week, or we're going to at least try to. And our guest this week is Twitter personality Top Rat. Rat, you want to introduce yourself?
Greetings. This is Top Rat. I am a self-proclaimed professional. I have enjoyed Norla Sports since they've been aboard, and I am all in. And there's nothing else I can really say other than I call and I'm all in.
Now, Rat, you're good with the odds. If you follow Top Rat on Twitter, he's a good follow. He's not for everyone. Sensitive ears need avoid, sensitive eyes avoid him, but he's a good follow. Now, you're into the math and the numbers side of things, right, Rat?
See, each line Norla puts out is what he proclaims to be 50%. And see, when he puts out his negative 120 or even negative 110, if you don't feel you got a greater than 50% odd chance to hit it, you shouldn't bet. And that's all I make my living off of is hitting greater than 50%. And if you're hitting negative 110, then you should be hitting about 53%. And if you're not doing better than that, then just entertainment purposes only. And that's all I am watching for, because Norla Sports is strictly for entertainment purposes only.
Very analytical one he is. A lot of us watch games with emotion and with heart, but some of us just like the numbers, and I feel like that's where Rat falls in. So don't get on his bad side, because if you're in that bottom 50%, he's got nothing to do with you. Now, a little bit of what's on board for today. Again, first show. It's going to be fun. We are post week 10 of the LHSAA football season, and as you may know, there are only 10 weeks. The regular season has ended, and we are getting ready for the playoffs. However, we are recording this on Saturday, November the 3rd, and the playoff brackets come out on Sunday, November the 4th. So we do not have the playoff brackets, and we always strive to cover with integrity. So we're not going to talk about the playoffs. We're going to give a recap of the season. We're going to talk about some area teams that have done extremely well, some teams we think we should talk about. We're going to talk about some teams that may have underachieved, and maybe some misperceptions about some of our Norla teams. We're also going to talk a little bit about a sensitive subject that's been a topic of hot debate around the area, and that is the select versus non-select divisions in the playoffs. We'll explain a little bit about what that is if you don't know. And if you do know, we're going to give our opinions on it, and we're going to try to be as unbiased as we can. And then again, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about why we cover what we do and why we don't cover MAIS. It's a pretty heavy subject, but we'll get to it when we get there. Top Rat, what's the first team we're talking about today?
Well, the first team, the probably obvious team that is on everybody's mind is the West Monroe Rebels.
West Monroe Rebels, indeed. West Monroe finishes the season as the only undefeated team in Class 5A. Now, before any of you John Curtis fans start getting in my DMs, and I don't know why you would, you shouldn't listen to this because you're not from up here. I know John Curtis went undefeated this year as well, but they do not play in the 5A playoffs. They play in the D1 Select playoffs. So they don't count. They don't count for this purpose. West Monroe finished. Are you okay over there, Rat? Are you okay?
Continue.
All right, just making sure you're all right. We don't want you to keel over on the podcast for us. Sure, you're good. Get you some water.
Everybody was concerned about Coach Arledge. Everybody,
I'm concerned about you right now. Is that
everybody
okay?
knows that it's they got a new stadium.
No. Listen, are you okay?
Yes.
All right. So what were you saying about Coach Arledge?
Everybody knows that Coach Arledge is taking over. This is a big 5A school. West Washita, from Katyville, sometimes referred to as Calhoun, is newly coming up to Calhoun. 5A.
Now that's speculation. Right?
That is speculation, but nevertheless, irregardless, West Monroe has got a lot of foot traffic on their heels, and Coach Arledge is under a lot of hot seats, and everybody knows that he is under the gun, fire, the fire under his flames. And this has been a big year, and he has shown to prove in himself.
Now, exactly how is Arledge on the hot seat?
Because he has had some big shoes.
Talking about Don Chow's?
Don Chow's has been he every single year his shoes have gotten bigger, and he has continued to fill them. And now Arledge has the shoestring. His shoes are to feel equally as big as Don Chow's.
Yeah, I remember growing up, my mom would take me to Payless. My shoes kept getting bigger and bigger, and I kept having to buy new ones. But eventually, you just stop growing, and you have a certain size of shoes, and you fill them nicely, and that's what Arledge has done coming in. West Monroe undefeated. We've actually seen a few West Monroe games. We've covered a few games this year. Early in the season, before Norla Sports really got going. And let me tell you something, that team has speed. They are fast. Everybody knows they're big. Everybody knows they have big athletes. You see them walk out on the field, and you're like, those guys are massive. But what isn't shown is their speed. They can beat you over the top with any position on offense, and on defense, they do just the opposite. You cannot beat them over the top with speed because they're just so fast. And because of that, they have gone 10-0, and they haven't really had any close games this year, besides probably McGill-Tulane out of Mobile, Alabama, who's a powerhouse in that state as well. And West Monroe took care of them in a neutral site in Shreveport in week 2 of the season, I believe. So it's been good for them, and one big standout for them has been their running back, Cameron Wright. What are your thoughts on Cameron Wright, Rat?
Cam McKnight has filled. He is only actually a junior, and he has taken the role as a senior.
I'm sorry, who has?
The wide receiver Cam McKnight?
No, we're talking about the. You're thinking of Louisiana Tech wide receiver Cam McKnight, and this is a high school. It's a high school podcast. We're talking about West Monroe running back Cameron Wright. Oh, excuse you. That's very unprofessional. We apologize.
We can edit.
No, we're not editing that out. This is unfiltered, unbiased. This is integrous sports talk, sir, and you need to conduct yourself with integrity.
Okay.
It's funny. I know it's funny to you. Hopefully, our listeners get a kick out of it. But
we're gonna get it soon.
Please don't turn the podcast off. We're going somewhere.
We're gonna edit all of it. Okay, we're talking about Cam McKnight or Cam Wright.
Okay, Cam McKnight is a wide receiver for Louisiana Tech.
Okay, we're talking about Cam Wright.
We're kind of talking about Cam Wright.
Is he offense or defense?
He is offense.
Okay.
He is
all right,
a running back.
Cam Wright has led this offense.
Well, how can you talk? How can you talk about what he's done if you didn't even know what side of the ball he was?
Cam Wright has led this team. JD, when I started this segment, I wanted to say he led this offense, but it's more than that. Actually, he led this team.
More.
He led this team to guiding, and not even guiding. It's proclaiming. He is more than just a declaration. He is Cam Wright. When I started this, I wanted to say he just led the offense, but it's more than that. Norla, JD, he has led the offense. Cam Wright is the reason this team is undefeated. You can write that down in your notebooks. Put it in blue ink because Cam Wright is the reason this team is undefeated.
Blue ink for a blue blood running back. He puts that team on his shoulders and he runs all over the place. Yeah, so again, long story short, West Monroe, really good. We'll see how far they go. A lot of people all over the state, not just in the north, our affiliates down south as well, tend to think that West Monroe should be the favorite to win the 5A state championship this year, and it would not be unheard of. They've done many times in the past. But we'll talk about them more next week after the first round playoff game. But again, good season for the Rebels out of West Monroe. Another team we want to talk about is Delhi. We're going from 5A down to 1A, the Delhi Bears over in Richland Parish. Just a really good team, really good squad. We had the honor of covering their game of the week against the Oak Grove Tigers. It was Delhi homecoming. We at Norla Sports were on location, and it was a crazy game back and forth. They ended up losing that game, and they ended up losing a couple of other key games this year to OCS and St. Fred's, but they overall had a great season. Nobody really saw Delhi coming out this year and being that good. What are your thoughts on that, Rat?
Everybody in Delhi is all bought in on the Delhi Charter Gators, but nobody in the city and even the parish even thinks about the Delhi Bears. Well, with Poverty Point, with the Delhi Charter Gators, with Riverfield Raiders, there's no time to even think about the Bears. Well, Delhi has shocked not just Northeast Louisiana, but Richland Parish, and they have gone on to a successful season. I am going all in on this team. I want to see them in the Superdome, and I want to see them win.
A parish that loves their football, and we would love to see that. That's quite a long shot. 1A is pretty tough, but North Louisiana does have some great 1A schools. What he said about shocking Richland Parish is big. There's some good football history in that parish. You've got the Rayville Hornets as well, who had a kind of a disappointing season. So Delhi pretty much waving the Richland Parish flag over there. They're off to a great start. Now, they can play a little undisciplined at times, which isn't great, isn't going to bode well for the playoffs, and could lead to a early round exit. But they have a lot of talent. They have a lot of speed. They got a quarterback that can run, but he also throws very well, which you don't see much out of a small school. He can sling the ball all over the place, throws the ball deep. We didn't catch his name. They weren't selling programs that day, so we're not sure what his name is. If anybody knows, please DM us. But he's really, really good. He can throw the ball everywhere. But Delhi, again, if you have a chance, if you're in that area, and they most likely will host a playoff game, go watch them. Give those boys a watch because they've earned it. They're really good. And it's just small schools like that can really take a small town and bring hope and bring life to it. It's just really, really great. Also, this show is brought to you by Nissan. I gotta cut that shit out.
Yeah, okay.
The Nissan part was bad. We can leave the cans in though.
All right, Vandal. Or Richwood.
But yes, go see Delhi for sure. Now, on the opposite side of that, a team that has really underachieved, a team that actually went much farther in the playoffs last year than anybody anticipated, is the Richwood Rams. Richwood, last season, defeated the Sterlington Panthers in the playoffs, which nobody saw coming. I remember that game like it was yesterday. It was just insane. It was just insane. Richwood made it all the way to the semifinals of the 3A state playoffs last year after defeating number 1 seed Sterlington 15-14 in the quarterfinals on the road. So a lot of people expect a lot out of the Richwood Rams this year, and they come in and just lay a complete egg.
This team is known for their production or lack of production for that matter, and honestly, most experts in my field, they actually knew that Richwood was bound to be what we like to say in the industry as regress to the mean, and the mean being the average. And this team, they were a perfect candidate. They did great last year, but this year we like to put a big circle with an X through it and this team has they have underperformed.
They only scored in the double digits 4 times this year. And one of those games was against Carroll, who's traditionally awful, and against Madison, who has 22 players on their roster. Richwood has just... It's baffling how bad they've been, and I don't really want to poop on kids. I'm really aiming this at the coaches, because you can't really blame the athletes for this. You got to blame the adults. Hang on, we got to fly. Got him. We have still pretty low budget facilities here at Norla Sports, so we're dealing with some things. But again, Richwood, I mean, just a huge drop. Really disappointing for the area. I was looking forward to seeing them in the playoffs this year, and they're not even going to make it. They won't be in. They're not in position for a seed. But let's try to bring the mood back up there. What team should we talk about next, Rat? If you could quit belching, that would be nice.
The natural progression from Richwood would be a team that most of us don't really think about, and that's a team in Northwest Louisiana, the Evangel Eagles.
Yes.
This team has got a lot of talent. They've played a tough schedule, and this team is. You can quote me on this, JD.
I'm ready.
You can quote me.
I will.
This team is better. This team is better than the record shows. And what I mean by that is I think this team will go deep in the playoffs. And I don't mean just second, third round. This team might be in the 4th or 5th round.
4th or 5th round. Now, answer me this, Rat. When the playoffs come, Evangel will play teams from what state?
Okay. That's a great question and a great answer to follow. See, Evangel is 5-3. 3 of those losses have come from.
Well, they're 6-3.
6-3.
Close enough.
They are 6-3. 3 of those losses have come from out-of-state teams. Am I not mistaken?
You're not mistaken. They lost to Bishop Dunn Catholic School out of Texas, who's a top. You really need to go see a doctor. A top 30 or 40 school out of Texas, which means a lot. They lost to Duncanville High School, who's like a top 10 school out of Texas, and they lost to North Little Rock.
Okay, that proves my point. They've lost three games. When you go to the playoffs, you play nothing but Louisiana teams. This Evangel team is dangerous. I want every high-seeded team to buckle their seatbelts because this Evangel team is looking out, and you should look out as well. Lower those blinds, okay? You're going to need a bow. I mean, not a bow. You're going to need a rifle for this team because a bow is not as deep as you need.
I think what Rat is trying to say is to take down the Eagles, you need a sharp shot. Now,
Evangel has got a deep, smart sights. This offense has proven time and time again there's nothing that can stop this team. Evangel will go to the Dome. Mark it on your calendars. People in Shreveport, go ahead and book your room at the Canal Street Inn. Anything on Canal Street, try to avoid Bourbon or the French Quarter. Just try to stay on Canal because Evangel will be in the Dome. Mark your calendars. This team is going to be buying popcorn after the end of the game, and they will be carrying the state championship trophy home.
Bourbon Street is great. Nobody dislikes Bourbon Street, but they are not from the Norla area. So if you're going to name roads, you might want to go with something like Uri Drive, which is not as fabulous, but still great in its own right. There's a really good Chipotle on Uri Drive. But yes, Evangel. To put this in perspective, speaking of Shreveport and speaking of the Dome, they play in the select playoffs, which we'll explain later. And a team that they might go up against at some point would be a team like C.E. Bird, who Evangel beat 42-7 this year. Bird's a good team, and Evangel just dismantled them. It's a good Eagles team over there.
As a professional bettor, this was a game where Evangel was favored by 9 against Bird. I could not help myself in taking a 5A team who's faced 5A talent in the Bird Yellow Jackets and taking the Bird Yellow Jackets plus 9 versus the Evangel Eagles.
Entertainment purposes only.
And it came back to bite me, just like the Yellow Jackets stung me on that game in taking their stock / entertainment purposes stock And the Evangel Eagles has hurt me once, and trust me, guys, this is not a team you want to entertainment purposes bet against again.
If you were an entertainment purposes betting man, bet Evangel. But we don't condone gambling. But enough about the Eagles. I'm sure we'll see them for the next several weeks to come in the Division I playoffs. Another good surprise this year, heading back east over to Ouachita Parish, sticking with the select schools, another private school. St. Frederick High School, the Warriors, with new coach Andy Robinson, who used to be an assistant at Ruston, so I like it. Norla coaches staying local. They come in, and what was their record?
You know, JD, this segment might have to be cut, but there's a lot of private schools in this area that are Protestant, and as a Christian foundation, I do endorse that, but St. Frederick's is Catholic, and most Christian schools, you divide out to Protestant and Catholic, and St. Frederick's is one of those rare few. They are Catholic, and that team is 8-2, and we're going to test this out and see how it sounds. We may cut it, we may not, but I'm going to kick it off back to JD.
Oh, well, I like this segment. St. Frederick sounds like a South Louisiana school. You know, you go into the LHSAI.org, which is where we get a lot of our information. It's a great website. It's a great organization. And there's hundreds of schools, not hundreds, maybe 10, with the word Saint in front of their name. And there's not a lot from up here, but St. Fred's is there. Little 1A school, and they're rolling.
You know, typically, JD, when we think of Saints, we do think of St. Moore. St.
Thomas More.
St. Thomas More. St.
What a great saint that was.
St. Episcopal. St. John. West St. John. Etc. North Louisiana, you think of Fred's. You think of Dollar General. North Louisiana is known for the dollar value stores. And so St. Fred's really brings in both types of environments to the 1A select. And so this St. Frederick school has really grabbed the hearts of the whole state. And I think the whole state knows that.
So, again, we apologize for this. He's got some good input, but he just can't seem to control his body.
St. Fred's knows that the whole state's behind him. And this team is looking to not only book a trip to the Canal Street Inn, they're looking to bring home that state championship trophy.
Yes, Coach Andy Robinson has got, in his first year, has got this team playing some really good defense. They have allowed less than 10 points 4 times this season. 40% of their games they've played in, they've allowed actually 8 or fewer points. They've obviously won all 4 of those games, including a Week 10 victory at Delhi, who we just talked about was being so good. They beat Delhi 12-8. St. Fred's had less than 100 yards of total offense and got the win.
Delhi has been divided with Delhi Charter, with Riverfield. That parish has been nothing short of divided. And St. Fred's came in and they kept dividing, and they came up with a multiplication victory.
They did. They multiplied their wins and they multiplied our hearts. Something else that needs to be noted: St. Fred's and OCS. These two schools are miles apart on Highway 165 in lovely Monroe, Louisiana. A couple of small 1A schools, heated rivalry. But, you know, you can't really call it a rivalry when it's so one-sided. OCS has beat St. Fred's every year since 2002. Not this year. OCS comes into St. Frederick's and loses 24-21. Quite a big win for St. Fred's in Coach Robinson's first year. You look like you had something you wanted to add there. You have nothing there?
I have nothing.
Okay.
OCS was a formidable opponent, and St. Frederick's has shown time and time again that Andy Robinson is buckered down, and this team is all in.
Yeah, St. Fred's only losses this season were to Oak Grove, who we'll talk about in a little bit. They're incredible as always, and to Loyola Prep, who's a 3A school, the biggest school that St. Fred's played this year. So, you know, you can look at St. Fred's schedule and say, they played some. They didn't play a lot of big schools, and that's true. But they did play some good schools from their own class, and they did well against them. So they have a lot to brag about in their own right. But enough about them. I'm sure we'll see them in the weeks to come. So, Rat, you mentioned a road a while ago. What road did you mention?
I probably mentioned Highway 17.
No,
they're in Richland Parish.
Nobody knows what you're talking about.
Oh, Highway 165?
Oh, no, that was me. You mentioned Bourbon Street, right, Rat?
That's correct.
That's right. Rat's good with numbers, but not good with memory.
Bourbon Street is directly connected to Canal Street, which is right there in lovely New Orleans.
Thank you for that southeast Louisiana geography description. Now I'm going to bring it back to the north, although that was very informative, very good. A lot of us will hopefully be traveling to the Canal Street area as some of these Norla teams make it to the Dome this year. But I would say, with some analogies here, Bourbon Street is to New Orleans as Airline Drive is to Bossier City. And I want to talk about the Airline Vikings, a sports powerhouse.
Shreveport has a lot of really just infested type places. Just like the New Orleans region. New Orleans has a lot of they have that French Quarter, and they have a lot of the hurricanes. And Shreveport is just as they have just as many things. They have the casinos, they have the strip clubs, and Airline has distanced themselves, and they have shown they are in it for the long run. This team, I'm all in.
All in you are. And Coach Bo Meeks, he's proven himself in the past to be a good coach. Back in the day, he was the offensive coordinator at Bastrop when they won back-to-back state titles in the 2000s. I believe he went on to Mangum after that and had some success there. And he's had some success at Airline, which makes it even more surprising that this year that they would just suck. I don't like to use that word. We don't like to use profanity like suck on this podcast, but they have been bad. Airline finishes the season with a record of 3-7. They start the season by going on the road to Union Parish. That in itself is bizarre. At school from Bossier City, a 5A school, traveling to Farmerville, Louisiana, which is a beautiful town, by the way. Lake D'Arbonne, great fishing, great views, great sunsets. Airline travels out there to take on the Fighting Farmers out of Union Parish, and they lose 27-30.
Spatafora has this team fighting. This community has rallied, and the Union Parish Farmers, formerly known as the Farmerville Fighting Farmers, they are now the Union Farmers.
They're unified.
They are a Together as One, Divided We Stand, formerly known as Together We Stand. And Spatafora has this team. They're rallied. They're unified. They are committed, and they are pot committed, and they are not going to fold without a fighting farmer chance.
We always love the poker analogies, especially for a school from Bossier City, Airline. Airline, looking at their schedule, starts off with 3A Union Parish. They think they're going to go out there and get an easy win. They end up losing, which is great for one of our Norla schools, the Farmers, but bad for Airline. They follow it up with a loss to Bastrop and then a loss to Ruston. They start the season 0-3. In hindsight, it's not as bad of a start as it sounds, because Union ended up having a great season. Bastrop appears to be back like they used to be. Ruston, an incredible offense. And then Airline finally gets a win against Southwood, who's just garbage. Airline's only wins this year against Southwood, North Webster, and then the high point for them, a Week 10 victory against Halton, who's had a great season. Halton came in, and we actually, I'm going to toot my own horn as social media director for Norla Sports. I predicted that Airline would upset Halton, even though I made Airline a 13.5-point underdog, and they did. They beat Halton last night at home for senior night. It's big for those seniors. They had a disappointing season, but they ended up beating Halton. It's not out of the question that they might make the playoffs. If they do, they'd probably be a 32 seed, and they'd have to travel to West Monroe, so we all know how that's going to end. But overall, a good way to end a bad season for Airline. We wish them luck in the future. We have a lot of followers from Airline. It's a good school. They have a lot of very solid sports programs, and it's just so strange to see their football program be this weak. So we hope that in the future they can turn things around. They have great athletes. Hopefully the coaching can catch up to what's been going on out there. Any other thoughts on Airline, Rat, or are we good to move on to the next school? He's got no thoughts. All right. Two more schools we want to talk about. Kind of a debate. I'll give some sides for both of them real quick. So we're going to look at 1A. 1A is often not on people's radar. It's the smallest division in LHSAA football. But it's big for us in North Louisiana because it's often the division that has the most success out of all the divisions. 5A, very heavily loaded towards the south. The same with 4A and 3A. When you get down to 2A and 1A, we have a lot of good football programs up here in North Louisiana. And two that have really shown out this year are the District 2 1A Oak Grove Tigers and the District 1 1A Haynesville Golden Flashes. So, wait, are they the Flashes or the Tornadoes?
I think, JD, they're the Golden Tornadoes.
That is really embarrassing that I did not know that Haynesville was the Golden Tornadoes. I apologize to all the great folks in Haynesville. But Haynesville and Oak Grove, a combined record of 20-0. Pretty impressive. Not bad for the north side of the state. Oak Grove defeating all the 1A opponents they've played, as well as 2A Delhi Charter, 3A Wasman, who's had a good year. That's a big win. And also 3A Sterlington, who's always solid.
Haynesville's right on the edge of the
well, we're on Oak Grove right now.
Oak Grove's right on the border of Arkansas and Mississippi. This team is bound by their coach. They're bound by their defensive coordinator. They're bound by their offensive coordinator. And being right on the edge of Arkansas and Mississippi, this team has a lot to prove. Okay? A lot of people think that Oak Grove is in Arkansas. And being on the border, the state border, right next to Kilburn, right next to Lake Providence, most people forget about Oak Grove. But this team has not forgotten that they are one to be reckoned with, and most people forget that Oak Grove that Oak Grove is there to be fighting with as a 1A district foe.
We apologize to all our headphone users. Sometimes Rat gets a little excited, rightly so. Oak Grove is incredible. We wish he would tone it down in the future, but yes, Oak Grove runs a 3-4 defense. They have 3 defensive linemen that could probably be starting for most 5A schools.
They can be starting for most SEC schools, with the exception of Alabama and LSU and Florida, stuff like that. They could probably start for Kentucky, Vanderbilt, and Mississippi State.
They're a good defense. They're definitely a very good defense. They've beat some good teams in blowouts. They beat OCS 64-35. They beat Delhi in a close one, 41-38, in which they were down 22-7 in the first half. That was a good emotional victory for them to come back and beat Delhi on the road. And then again, big wins against Sterlington and Wasman. Those are 2 really good 3A programs. So that's the Oak Grove Tigers. And on the other side of that, we have the Haynesville Golden Tornadoes, who are also undefeated. Now, they've actually played a 4A school. They played Minden, who's, had some struggles this year. But they beat them 14-2.
Most people, when they think of Haynesville, they think of Lake Claiborne. And when you think of Lake Claiborne, you have to think of Port-au-Prince or the Claiborne Parish.
If we could get Port-au-Prince to sponsor this podcast, that would be great. If anybody is listening from Port-au-Prince, give us a sponsorship. And even if they're not sponsoring us, if you're in that area, please go eat there, because just do yourself a favor. They're good.
Regardless, Port-au-Prince is the kind of what I would call the hub of Claiborne Parish, and Haynesville's right stuck in the middle. And most people forget that the Haynesville Golden Tours.
You got this.
Golden Tours.
Oh, yeah.
They really own the parish, even though that Port-au-Prince, with their nonstop, all you can eat steaks, all you can eat shrimps, all you can eat fish, with the nonstop appetizers such as the beans, the coleslaw, the onions. The Golden Tours is what brings together that parish. This team is all in. You can mark me down. I'm going to go down with this team. I want to book it. This team is going to be on Canal Street. See you in December.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that more than anything. Haynesville on Canal Street in December. Fried shrimp. All you can eat steak. Claiborne Parish. Lake Claiborne. Now, I do want to say, full disclosure, We know Homer is in Claiborne Parish as well, but Haynesville beat Homer 42-14, so we're not really worried about Homer right now. Again, a little rundown on Haynesville's schedule. I mean, that speech from Rat got me fired up. Rat, you've got me wanting to go down to the Dome right now and get my tickets for Haynesville and whoever they play. Haynesville, Kentwood. I'm calling it right now. Haynesville versus Kentwood in the Dome. Let's do it. But again, their resume. They beat North Webster 28-19, a 3A school on the road. They beat Minden 14-2, a 4A school on the road. They beat a team from Arkansas 33-0, Junction City. They're probably not any good, but they beat them nonetheless. They went on the road and beat Plain Dealing 35-8. I'm not sure why I read that one out, but they also beat 3A Green Oaks, who, I know what you're saying, Green Oaks is a kind of a artsy school out of Shreveport, but they've had their first non-losing season in 16 years this year. And the fact that Haynesville is one of those teams to give them a loss, along with Jonesboro Hodge, a couple of good 1A schools, that's good stuff. But again, Haynesville, Oak Grove, and Jay Hodge, like I just said, Rats kind of got me convinced. I'm rolling with Haynesville. Haynesville to the Dome, all the way. All you can eat steaks, shrimp, beans, and golden tornadoes. State champs. Let's do it. Canal Street, Bourbon Street. We don't need Airline Drive. We got Claiborne Parish. You don't even need roads in Claiborne Parish. You get you a jet ski. That lake's big. You got it. You're good. You can make it around. Live music, Port-au-Prince, sunsets, golden tornadoes, Canal Street, baked beans, football, 10-0. 2019 state champs. Haynesville, all the way. Woo! I want to throw a hoodat in there. Let's go. I'm a Haynesville fan. I gotta order me a jacket. I've never even been to a game there. Game of the week, week 1 next year. Game of the week is going to be Haynesville. I don't know who they're playing yet. It could be Lincoln Prep for all I know. It could be a trash school. But we are going to that game. I swear, if you're from Haynesville and you don't follow us, you're really missing out because we're giving you some good free PR here. It's big. It's huge. It's a small school, but they have such big hearts and they fight with such spirit. They're always good. They're always good. It's a big, big game next year. Week 1. We're skipping the playoffs. We're skipping it for the next 5 minutes or whatever on this show. I don't care about the playoffs. I'm talking week 1 next year. Defending state champion Haynesville Golden Tornadoes in a huge game against some opponent that we don't know yet. It could be Lincoln Prep. It could be Destrehan. I don't know. Haynesville's going to win. Haynesville could be Edna Carr right now. You hear me, Edna Carr? Down south? Think you're big and bad. Number 1 4A school? You don't know how we play football up here in the north. Whoa. We got to move on. Oak Grove, I'm sorry, Oak Grove. We were going to debate Haynesville, Oak Grove, but sorry, Oak Grove, you're done. Haynesville got you. It's not all you can eat steak. I just wish that Haynesville had a chance to play the select schools in the playoffs too, because they would beat all of them. And that's really a tragedy, which brings us to our next point, which is the select versus non-select argument. I know that last segment got a little out of hand, but this next one is very, very serious. There's been serious debate over the past few years about the split in the playoffs. The public schools play in one division, and the private schools play in another division. Now, just to give you some numbers here, there are 49 Class 5A schools playing in the public school, the non-select division of the playoffs. So 32 of the 49 make the playoffs. There are only 13 Division 1 schools in the select playoffs. Every school makes the playoffs. In fact, Divisions 1 through 4 of select, every school makes the playoffs except for some schools in Division 4. The smaller schools are the only ones that don't have a chance to make the playoffs. It waters down the competition so much. But to an extent, I understand why it has to happen. I don't like it. I think it could be modified, maybe fewer divisions. But I don't want to throw out the R word, but recruiting does happen. And some of the big schools that we've praised, like Evangel, the small schools that we've praised, like St. Fred's, can get away with that R word, recruiting, because they don't have to deal with districts and lines and this kid lives here, they can go wherever they want to as long as it's a public school or a private school. So understand why it's necessary. But some people, and I feel like Top Rat might be one of these, are slightly against it. And I'd like to hear a clear, rational argument about why we should bring them back together.
Louisiana is not a large state. Last Census Bureau numbers that were released show that Louisiana has shows that about probably 9 million people live in the state. And yeah, that sounds nice.
That's probably right.
Sounds like a lot. 9 state champions a year doesn't sound bad. But when you think about, okay, I just said 9.
9 state champions. How can you have 9 state champions?
I want you to think about that. That's 9 state champions a year. It's not like track where there's 1 state champion for each division. That's 9 teams. Okay? So basically, if you live in a parish, say you live in Richland Parish, you go to Delhi.
We've talked a lot about them. Richland.
Delhi, you go to Delhi High School. You're not going to play OCS in the playoffs. You're going to play OCS. I mean, you're going to play Oak Grove.
Yes.
You're going to play Mangum, perhaps.
Maybe.
You're going to play another 1A school like Kentwood, the Kangaroos.
Ooh, the Kangaroos from down south. Ooh, they're good.
There are 9... Okay, look at Louisiana, the square miles. Look at New York, the square miles. There are 9 state champions in Louisiana. As long as I've grown, it was always 1A, Oak Grove, Kentwood, whoever else. 2A, Sterlington, West Bank, etc. 3A, Wassman. Who else? 4A, Neville.
Edna Carr.
5A, West Monroe, Rummel,
Evangel.
Jesuit, Barb.
Ooh.
Now there is a whole divide that by 2 mindset. So you're telling me there's 9 state champions?
Participation ribbons.
Exactly. We as a state need to think, are we red or are we blue?
Oh, getting a little political here. I got to warn you, I can't hold him back, but it's going to happen.
These are not views endorsed by Norla Sports,
yes.
But we have to view ourselves. Are we going to just give out state championship rings? Or are we going to give out to teams that earn it? Because I'm all in.
All in you are. What are you all in on?
I'm all in on dedication. I'm all in on hard work. And I'm all in on not just rewarding teams for a good sportsmanship trophy to be dedicated to the top teams. Okay? Louisiana's not a big state, and this, especially when you include MAIS. Okay, I've got 9 teams.
Oh, well.
No, JD. I've got 9 teams for select, non-select. Who even knows when you think about MAIS? We haven't even mentioned 8-man.
We're not. Well,
no, whether we mention it or not, they're going to claim state championships. What is there, 15 state championships for the whole state of Louisiana? That's ridiculous.
MAIS doesn't actually exist.
They don't exist. Neither does 8-man.
Right. It's not real.
Either way,
it's a myth.
There's too many state champions. I'm all in. They need to go back to 5. This state is too small to be giving out a participation ribbon for each team that has a sponsor and a PTA program. Let's cut it down. Let's get back to let's get back to basics.
Yeah. For time purposes, we're going to move on to the next thing, but I will just add by saying I want the best teams to win state champions. And if we have Jesuit winning 1 state championship and West Monroe winning the other, we really don't know who's the better team. So whether you like it that a public school has to play a private school or not, if I'm a representative of a public school, then I want my public school beating that private school. I want the opportunity to play them. Give the kids the opportunity to play. That's all I'm saying. We don't have any say in it, but if we did, we'd change it right now. But Top Rat brought up a sensitive subject. MAIS. And this is the last thing we're going to talk about on the show this week. We hope you've enjoyed it, but we're going to end with something that's a little bit personal, something a little close to my heart, and that's the subject of the MAIS schools here in Louisiana, such as Oak Grove, Prairie View, Riverfield, etc., etc., etc. We get it. You're small schools. So is Sicily Island. They have 71 students in their school. They play 1A football. They just beat Cedar Creek. What does the M stand for in MAIS, Top Rat?
Mississippi.
What state do we live in, Top Rat?
Not Mississippi.
Not Mississippi. That's right. We are proud citizens of not Mississippi. We support LHSAA schools. Not Mississippi Schools, High School, Athletic Schools Association. We do not cover Mississippi schools. Sorry, I'm not picking on you, River Oaks. That's the first name that comes to mind. River Oaks Academy in Monroe plays in the MAIS, the Mississippi Association of Independent Schools. But last I checked, you live in Louisiana. You need to have some pride in what you're doing. It's like all these Fairweather, Alabama fans walking around who were born and raised in Minden or Alexandria or, Coshada. You're from here. You're from Louisiana. Root for your own schools. I just can't stand it. The owner of this company, who I'll mention in a little bit, we can't give out his name. The owner of Norla Sports begged us to consider covering MAIS schools, and I said, as social media director, I refuse. We will not cover those schools until they acknowledge that they exist in our great state of Louisiana. It's a great state, and we love it. On that note, to kind of wrap things up, we hope you've enjoyed this first ever historical podcast. I'd like to thank my guest, Top Rat, for being with us today.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Give him a follow on Twitter if you'd like. Look him up. He responds to us quite a bit. Again, follow us on Twitter at Norla Sports, at NORLA Sports. We cover all North Louisiana sports in the parishes we listed earlier. Some of you who already follow us have been a little bit concerned about what happened yesterday with our owner taking over the Twitter account. He is a man who loves his privacy, so he refuses. He does not give us permission to say his name on the air or on any other media outlets. So we will just call him owner, but he is safely on his way back from Boca Raton. We're told that the wedding was a success. He got to see his nephew, his favorite nephew. He was the third groomsman in the wedding, as you probably saw on Twitter, but he's on his way back. Everything should be normal. From time to time, he may hop on there. We're going to try to keep him off because he's a little bit eccentric. He's a Tom Benson type. God rest his soul. But we'll try to keep him off. But if he gets on, don't let that defer you. We appreciate the follows we've been getting. We hope to keep covering. If there's a school that you think we should have talked about today that we didn't, please let us know on Twitter. That's our main source. You can reach us on there. And we hope to be back next week. Thank you for listening to the first edition of the Norla Sports Recap Hour, football style. And with that, we will sign out.
Thank you, ma'am.